Good evening. Welcome to the Mind of STEM channel, where you get your daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm your host, Leon Jones. And in this segment, I'm going to talk about implementing design and project management of a project. So, the title of this evening's video is How Projects Are Planned and Managed. How projects are planned and managed. Now, the information that I am going to provide is all mine. The PowerPoint that you're going to see is the research I did for an actual project that has actually been built. Let me share my screen and show it to you. And the project that I am talking about was one that was on the books for 30 years. It's known as Maryland 200, the inter-county connector. So what you have in this presentation is information on how projects are managed and planned. And right now, the project is in design phase. Now, of course, the information that I am using, I did research for a paper, and it comes from the PMI. The PMI is the Project Management Institute, and this is from the Silver Spring chapter. And when we talk about projects, there is always a lot of outcry for projects that are going to be built. Why? Because you have issues like eminent domain. And generally, what DOTs do, they buy up right away by taking your property. And in the long run, what they do, they give you market value for your property. Now, when we deal with a project, you have to have an overview. Now, an overview involves the history, the planning and design, the innovative project delivery, decisions on contract packaging, project status, and then you have questions and answers because you're generally delivering this presentation to the public because they need to know. Now, all right, I'm going to go into the project and I'm going to give you this information. What is the ICC? Well, the ICC is a east-west 18-mile multi-modal highway. And what it does, it connects I-270, I-370, and I-95 and US 1. This project was actually part of the Washington Outer Beltway. Again, it's multimodal. When we deal with multimodal, we talk about the vehicles that are going to be traveling on this facility. So auto, bus, and carpool will be traveling on this facility. And this is all part of the planning. And then how many lanes is it going to have? It's going to have 3 lanes in each direction. So what you're going to have is a 6-lane divided highway. It's going to have a median in the middle, 9 interchanges. Now, when I get into my transportation part, I'll give you more in depth of what an interchange is. So I'm going to give you a brief version right now. An interchange is where you enter and exit a highway. Now, also part of the planning of this highway is this expressway or facility going to be tolled? Yes, it is. And it's going to have highway speed electronic tolling to help manage traffic flow. Now, tolls used to be a hindrance because you had to stop, pay money. Then we got rid of most of the tolls and we went to an electronic, what we call easy pass system. Now you have a system that actually reads your transponder and you can go right through without ever stopping. Then you have to look at the environment. So what we have with this project is a controlled transportation facility, which is located in eastern or central Montgomery County and northwestern PG County. Again, when you deal with planning a project, one of the things that you need a map. And you see this map right here. And the good thing about maps is they have colors. The colors are going to tell you what is going to happen. Okay, you see the colors right here. Here's the road, Maryland 200. Goes all the way right down to Route 1. Now, you have I-95. Now, what's going to go on I-95? Well, if you look at the map, what's going to go on is they're going to do some interchange construction. Now, one thing you need to understand about a map when you read it, you need to know what the legend stands for. Now, this is a legend that has different contracts. So contractor A is all in green, contractor B is in purple, contractor C is in yellow, contractor D is in blue, and contractor E is in, I call it, orange brown. Now, what are the blue dots for? The blue dots are for the interchanges. And now, when you design a project, you also have to indicate the purpose and need so people know what you're talking about. So the purpose and need for this project is to increase community mobility and safety, improve access between economic growth centers, known as smart growth, provide infrastructure needed to support local land use in Montgomery and Prince George's County, Maryland, enhance environmental stewardship, and advance homeland security. Again, you want to provide pictures when you're doing a presentation because individuals want to know what you are presenting. You also have the history. Again, part of the ICC was supposed to be the Outer Beltway, and this was between 1950 and 1968. Then between 1979 and 87, there were studies, but no final design. 1992 to 1999, the project was put back on the table because studies were renewed, but they were only preliminary studies. And in 2002, ICC named the top transportation priority in Maryland. And then in 2003, the United States Department of Transportation places the ICC on Project Streamline list. And SHA, if you don't know what SHA stands for, it stands for State Highway Administration. That's part of Maryland. And then in 2006, they did the final, what I call the EIS, which is an environmental impact study. And then the record of decision came, which was your final approval. And guess who signed it? The FHWA, which is the Federal Highway Administration. And then when you deal with projects, you got different milestones, like the initiation of study efforts, publication of draft environmental impact statement, contract A, which is informational meeting, and you have your FIAS, which is your final environmental impact study, record of decision. And these are all dates. This is all documentation. Then you have contract C, informational meeting, all dated. Contract B, informational meeting. Then once you have all that information taken care of, then you got what we call your notice to proceed. And that's for contract A. Now, remember, this project was divided up into different contracts for the same project. Now, again, when you present any project, you have to utilize why you're doing it, why this project is going to be successful. Okay, now this one is, why are we successful? They talk about innovative technical approaches, innovative team composition and structure, best resources, partnering approach, and committed leadership and management. Okay, what was different? Well, designated as a federal transportation priority, and you have process streamlining. Under that, you have agency cooperation, concurrent reviews, adherence to standard process, approval of accelerated study schedule. Now, the project hasn't been built, but you see what you have to go through before you build a project. Now, it's funny because from 1950 to 2007, you know how many years that was? That's 57 years. So this project was actually on the books before I was born. Okay, process improvements. This is what you have to have when you're designing a project. And what you see on this PowerPoint, you see what we call a replica of what the project is going to look like when it's completed. Okay. We have talked about the design. What about the project team? Because somebody's got to run the project. Okay. Well, with the techniques, you're going to have large specialty discipline team assembled by SHA. And in that, it's going to be charter and partnering agreements, decision-making and conflict resolution process. Again, you got to have somebody that's going to make some decisions, and you're going to have conflicts. So you need to know how to conflict resolute when you're actually putting a project together. You need a core team structure, and you need to have weekly core meetings because you need to know where you are in the project. Then you have to deal with the environment, communication, and accountability. And you must document all of your environmental documentation. Project ownership. And this PowerPoint is good for individuals who are consultants because you need to know who's in charge of everything. Now, what you see here is project ownership. We have an organizational chart. MDOT, which is the Maryland Department of Transportation, is the owner. And then under them is the State Highway Administration. And then you have what we call MDTA. MDTA is Maryland Transportation Authority. They own all of the toll roads, bridges, and tunnels. So the Governor Nice Bridge, the John F. Kennedy Memorial Highway, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the Fort McHenry Tunnel, the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel, they're all under the jurisdiction of MDTA. Then, something else you need to understand. You have to have your organizational chart of who's going to be doing what. It's very important when it comes to planning a project. And you see it right here. In your technical advancements, talk about being beyond mitigation, special design features. Now, this is more or less on the capital project or the civil side, but if you go into any other branch of engineering, you're going to go through the same process. You have your maps. Your maps are very important because you need to know the beginning and the end of a project. Technical advances. There you go right here. You see what I was talking about? You want to be able to give your audience a visual of what's taking place, because When we deal with highways and byways, we talk about tolls. And this is what they're talking about. 3-lane, you have your toll booths. Again, this is a rendition of what the highway is going to look like when it's completed. Again, when you're in managing and planning, you need to know what kind of planning and design coordination is going to take place. You're going to be working with. And are you going to be working with DBEs, which is a disadvantaged business enterprise? Because the government does provide 25 to 30% of funds for disadvantaged business enterprises, women business enterprises, and minority business enterprises. And now they're getting into your DVBEs, your disadvantaged veteran business enterprises as well. Okay. When we deal with any type of management, what kind of challenges are going to be involved? Well, you're going to have to deal with the public. What software are you going to use? What contract? Are you going to be doing a design build? Again, with all these projects, you have to find a DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise. Then you have to package the contract, submit it for bid. Again, you're looking at what this project is going to look like. Management challenges. Again, we deal with public coordination, the issues, transitioning from planning to design and construction. And you have to explain the design build versus design bid build processes to the public. Now, I did do an early video on design bid and design bid build. If you want to get more in depth, go watch that previous video. Okay, then you have to manage expectations for public input into the design and construction process and planning process. Then you have to balance good judgment with setting a precedent for notification. Solution is to develop and implement a comprehensive outreach program. Then again, the management challenge, you're going to have the design builder, issues, information sharing, quality assurance, building trust, DBEs. Got to find a DBE who's qualified. You got to meet the DBE goals. Good thing about having DBEs, they expand business opportunities and they allow for smaller disadvantaged businesses to compete. Then you have to track the progress of DBE firms. Contract packing. It's a lot to go into a project, and what I'm doing, I'm teaching you how to package a project so you can send it out the bid, because if the paperwork is wrong, your project is not going to proceed. Again, when we deal with contract packaging, we have to assess the range of options and best packaging strategy. Prepare procurement documents. You have to maintain document security. Documentation is the key, because if there's a failure and you have it documented, you can cover yourself. You have to establish procurement procedures, best value selection versus low bid. Then you get into your construction, and what you see is this map. Okay, this map has all of your contracts. Contract A, B, C, D, and E, and it has the amount. Then you have your project status. Okay, now, during this project status, the planning was completed in 2006. The first design builder, the first segment, was selected for contract A. Also issued limited notice to proceed. That's minor data gathering activities, project litigation. Then they moved project team to quarter in, also for procurement for contracts B and C respectively. And then they had community meetings. Now, again, when you are dealing with projects, you have to have meetings with your project and your design team and the public, because this was a big project. Remember, we pay our taxes for these projects. Okay. And what you see here is a current schedule. Now, what I actually have done is taken the information that I did on the previous PowerPoints of design build and design bid build, and I'm actually showing you what it looks like when they put it together, and then they give you the bid amount. That's what you see right here. Then again, going forward, when it comes to management, you're always going to have challenges, and you got to meet your DBE goals. You got to continue integrity of procurement process, operate as an efficient organization. And basically, when you have a team, you're going to have your private public partnerships. So that means you're going to have your SHA, MDTA, and GEC, which is your general engineering consultant. Your GEC is going to be the designer of the project. And then again, environmental. Now, again, I am doing this from building a transportation project, but you can do this when you're an architect getting ready to build a building. You can even do this when you're building cars. And again, when it comes to management, future involvement for stakeholders, this is the organizations. But in the long run, when it comes to projects, you want to make sure that all of your paperwork is good, because there's a lot that goes into building a project. As you see, this project is a 50-year-old project. And it's funny because the project has been up and running for the last, I'm going to say 10 years. And for the most part, there are a number of individuals who don't understand road projects, because road projects have been canceled. I know I-70 in Baltimore was canceled. I-95 in between the Capitol Beltway going through Washington, that was discontinued. I have a lot of people that don't want roads because sometimes they have to take people's properties. I understand that, but you have to deal with the traffic. And, you know, transportation is also part of the critical infrastructure. So, again, what I did was give you a presentation on how a project is developed, planned, and constructed. Went through the PowerPoint, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, but in the end, when it comes to any project, whether it's a civil, an electrical, or mechanical project, you have to go through a process of making sure that you follow the environmental, you follow tolerance, you follow the standards of what kind of circuit boards you're going to develop. But in the end, every project has to be planned, managed, and constructed. And that concludes this topic of how to plan, design, and manage a project. And once again, hope you enjoyed the presentation. Might be boring to some, but if you're in the civil engineering, this is a good way to go. You're on a Mind of STEM channel. And if you want to check out some other content that I have, check out the 411 Talk Zone radio show. On that channel, I give you more of the social content and, of course, the political content. And you can catch me on Blog Talk Radio as well, 215-383-5785. Now, if you can't find me on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, you can find me on Twitter, MeWe, and Parler. Now, for the most part, my Mind to STEM videos go to Twitter, but my 411 Talks on Radio show videos and Blog Talk Radio go to Twitter, MeWe, and Parler, because MeWe and Parler are more or less political sites. But in the end, thank you for listening to this edition of the Mind of STEM channel, where you get your daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening.